Now, on to the environment now, or a story about the environment where oil and gas company Shell has suffered a legal blow today. The High Court in Makhanda in the Eastern Cape has granted an interdict against its seismic survey along the Wild Coast. The application was brought by activists, including the Kei Mouth communities. Applicants argued Shell does not have the required authorization to perform its survey. Let's get some reaction now to the court's judgment. I'm joined by the Green Connection strategic lead, Liz McDaid. Liz, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Your organization, the Green Connection, is one of those that has been supporting all kinds of efforts, including legal ones, against this seismic survey by Shell. Your reaction to this High Court's decision today?
Hi, good afternoon. It's actually really a good message. I think we welcome the court judgment, and one of the reasons that it's so important is, although this is just an interdict and there still must be more arguing in the courts next year, what it does do is, I think, put a pause in the whole rush to explore and exploit the ocean. And we saw that the judge actually acknowledged that on the evidence that the applicants brought, that there was going to be irreparable harm to the environment. And that, of course, is the importance not only for our own future heritage, but also for the fishers along the coast who depend on the sea for their livelihoods. So I think, as one of the organizations that have been very, involved in protesting in the public for oil, as well as putting formal submissions against these seismic surveys, we are, as well as everyone else, really feeling that civil society has stood together, and now we have been vindicated by the courts today. So I think it's a good moment, but it does mean that we have to now, it's an opportunity to say we shouldn't be looking for more oil and gas, and therefore this is a moment to pause this whole rush to exploit the oceans. And climate change is real, and let's push for a transition away from fossil fuels.
Yeah, wouldn't it be naive at this stage, though, to expect Shell not to fight back against this interdict, because they believe they've got authorization, and we know what the government thinks in the person of the Energy and Mineral Resources Department. They also believe that Shell can pursue this survey.
Well, yes, Shell may want to fight back. That will be their chance in the courts next year. But at the moment, they are interdicted from continuing, and the judge has found that, in his view, that there's a good case to say that they don't Shell's permit is not actually going to be valid. It's going to be found to be unlawful. So I think this is definitely important, and one of the grounds is because people were not properly consulted, and this is a critical issue, as people on the ground whose lives will be affected don't get to participate and have their say before the permits are granted. So I think that for this reason, it's also a very important case.
Yeah, so it's like a victory, I guess, for the likes of your organization, Green Connection, although you were not in court yourselves, but you've been supporting and protesting. Last week, I interviewed Mr. Pooven Moodley here on ENCA. He's from Natural Justice, one of the applicants. I see you're smiling. That means you actually know him. And I asked him a question which I want to put to you again as an environmental activist yourself. Is there real evidence that this type of seismic surveys do harm the environment? They do harm the marine ecosystem?
Yes. And I think if you remember, and you probably covered it, there was a former interdict a couple of weeks ago by another group that also tried to stop the Shell seismic surveys. And I think that's why you would have interviewed Pooven. And that the problem there was they didn't have sufficient time to put together some good evidence. But in fact, today the judge acknowledged that in terms of the scientists that all came forward to actually put forward the evidence that shows that there would be irreparable harm due to these seismic surveys. And so I think it's now clear that the ocean will be damaged and there would be harm. And so, yeah, Shell did not offer any opposition or any answering evidence to show that it wasn't, although no doubt in the full review next year they might try to come with that evidence.
So in the interim, your organization and the others, like Natural Justice of Mr. Proven Moodley and the rest of them, and the Eastern Cape community in that Wild Coast area who felt that they were ignored, they were never consulted about this, you are expecting no seismic survey at all. You are expecting Shell to respect and comply with the order of the court in terms of this interdict.
I would certainly expect so. I'm quite sure that Shell will, well, I don't know, I'm hoping that Shell would certainly abide by the court interdict, and that means no seismic surveys until such time as the full court case has been heard, and then only if Shell's successful. Nothing from today.
Yeah, we will try at ENCA. I know our producer is trying to get hold of Shell so we can get a response from them. I don't know what they're going to say. But in the interim, am I reading the situation correctly that despite this interdict, the likes of Green Connection, Natural Justice and others will continue to monitor the situation and raise alarm if and when they realize that the order is not the interdict is not being implemented or complied with? And what are your plans before the next court appearance? Are you continuing the pressure? Are you continuing the protest?
Well, we'll have to know that there are other seismic surveys also being proposed for the oceans, a little bit south of where the Wild Coast one was going to be. And so, of course, we as environmental activists who are supporting the communities along those coasts will continue to raise the alarm and raise awareness until we can actually turn around this, what we see as a desperate greed to exploit the ocean, and that we return to a more sustainable use of our ocean resources, which should benefit not just today's generations, but the future as well.
Liz McDaid from the Green Connection, thank you very much for your reaction and some views about this decision today that it's an interdict in the court that Shell must stop the seismic activity or survey it's been doing of the Wild Coast. Well, she and, of course, the fellow organizations view this as a kind of a victory, and they expect Shell to comply with the court's interdict.